Welcome back to the GCN Tech Clinic, where we aim to get you riding again, or maybe answer that burning question you've got about a cheeky little upgrade. So let's crack on then, shall we, with the first question this week, and it's from Graham Smith, who says they had a full service on their bike recently. They had a new bottom bracket chain and both gear cables, but since they've had this done, they've had a single click only when they're in the 53 and when they push on their right foot. Any ideas, as they've checked most of the things which they think it could well be? Now, the tick or the click, awful. My personal pet hate, because as soon as I get one, I just want to go home and solve it. Now, what I would suggest, first of all, take off all of your chain rings and your pedals, clean up the spider where they attach to, as well as the threads of the crank for the pedal, and then refit all those components, but using fresh grease or anti-seize. Torque them up to the correct recommendation, go back out, have a little ride. Still creaking or clicking? Right, okay. Make sure then it's not something like an end cap of your front derailleur, which is rubbing on the crank each time you go past. You say it is on the downstroke, but sometimes bikes have a weird and wonderful way of doing things. And then finally, make sure the bottom bracket is still tight inside of the frame and there's no movement there, because possibly, just possibly, it could have come loose somehow. If it's a press fit one, then maybe it needs a little bit of retaining compound in there. Next question is a drivetrain one, and that's from CMAD. If they purchase a 9100 rear derailleur, can they still use the 9000 levers? I know what you're thinking here, CMAD. You're thinking about a cheeky little upgrade, aren't you, which I mentioned earlier on. Now, those 9100 rear derailleurs, when they first came out, I was a little bit undecided about them. I thought, do you know what? It looks a bit like a mountain bike component. But hey, we've all got to take sacrifices somewhere. And in all seriousness, I think now they look absolutely brilliant. Anyway, enough about the aesthetics. The good news is it will work for you. And it's a great upgrade, and it's likely you're going to get a little bit lighter action shifting, as well as the benefit of possibly being able to direct mount it onto your derailleur hanger, depending on what type of frame you've got. And whilst you're at it, fit some new cables in there too. Never does any harm. Another Di2 question. I can't help but pick them out. Anyway, Carlos Sanchez wants to know, they recently purchased their first Di2 bike, a Scott Foil 10, and they're curious as to what precautions they need to take when washing it. They imagine water is not good for electronic components. Nice new bike you've got there. Well, water and electric generally don't mix. However, Di2, it's basically almost faultless in all types of weather conditions. And after all, if the pros are using them day in, day out, and the mechanics are jet washing them, well, there doesn't really seem to be any problems with them. However, I'm sure that the mechanics are not hosing or jet washing directly at any connections or junction boxes, that kind of thing, where water could possibly seep in. And I advise you to do the same at home when you're actually washing your bike. So don't go crazy with a jet wash or a hose all over those cables and connections. Simply wash the components as you would do a normal one. Now, I think Finish Line actually make some electric bike component specific cleaner, so you could well take a little look at that, as well as either using silicone grease or dielectric grease to basically seal around the Di2 cables where they go into the components. That's something which I do on my own, just to safeguard me against any possible water ingress. Now, Liam Sangaku, they've got themselves an annoying squeak coming from the drivetrain every so often. Now, Liam keeps his chain lubed and clean. Any suggestions? Right, firstly, Liam, get down nice and close to the drivetrain and pedal it backwards and try and find out exactly where it's coming from. Sometimes it's coming from your jockey wheels, because they have tiny little rubber seals around the metal washers which are spacing them away from the cage. Sometimes they just get a little bit caught and can give you a little squeak there. Alternatively, it could be a stiff link. So again, pedal backwards whilst inspecting around one of the sprockets to make sure that chain is running nice and smoothly. If it's not, then simply grab the chain and flex it a little bit side to side and try and free it up. Failing that, could well be a shoe cleat. If it is, give it a little spray with some silicone spray, and hopefully then you'll be squeak free. Oh, and it could also be your jockey wheel bearings. Sometimes some water gets in there, and that's known to give a little squeak too. So you could simply lay the bike sideways, so non-drive side down, and then put a little bit of chain lubricant onto the jockey wheel bearings, and that could go in there and hopefully get rid of that squeak for you. Galahad Bland wants to know, is it okay to use a pipe cutter, so that's a plumber's tool, to cut an aluminium steerer tube? Right, so for those of you who don't know, basically this is what plumbers use day in, day out for quickly cutting pipes. So it clamps onto a pipe, and then with a little turning knob, you simply adjust it to the diameter of the pipe and then rotate the tool around, and it gives you a perfectly clean cut. Absolutely perfect for your aluminium steerer tube. I've used them on the past, aluminium steerer tubes, as well as mountain bike handlebars, just to try and cut them down a little bit. These days, mountain bike handlebars seem to get wider, so that shows you how often I actually ride my mountain bike. Anyway, absolutely fine to use it. Just remember to deburr it at the end of it. So get yourself a file and just get rid of any sharp edges. Now, next up is a question from Joachim, who I'm going to cut this one down a little bit shorter. Basically, they need to adjust the B screw every time they swap the wheel set around on their bike because of different ratios of cassettes. Now, the GIS Phillips head B screw is starting to become a little bit worn out, and they want to know, can they replace it with a screw of similar length, thread pitch and material, but with a hex head, so it's more suitable for frequent adjustments? Now, it is annoying, Joachim, how this does happen to those little bolts, because we don't tend to adjust them very often. A little tip for you here, when you are adjusting it, actually pivot the rear derailleur backwards so the screw is not touching the dropout hanger. In turn, it'll be a lot easier to actually tighten it in there. But answering your question, can you change it for a different bolt? Yes, you can. Just make sure it's a very good quality bolt. There is certain types of stainless steel which are a lot better than others. So get yourself a good quality one. And yeah, a hex key will be absolutely fine. Final question this week is from Alec Teo, who asks, what can I do if I've already maxed out my front derailleur limit screws, but still get chain rub on the front derailleur when I'm on my big ring? Right, Alec, well, first up, make sure that your cable routing is all okay and it's not getting trapped or taking an odd route or anything like that. Failing that, have a look at your chain rings and make sure they're fitted in the correct way. So basically, they're not flipped around the opposite direction, which could be meaning that there's a bigger gap than ideal for the front derailleur to be able to handle. Still not working? Right, then let's unclamp your cable and then physically try and push the front derailleur as far to the drive side as possible and see if maybe the spring inside of it has become a little bit gunked up or something like that, which is preventing the light action from your shifter to be able to operate the derailleur correctly. Also, just have a good check to make sure that nothing's become wedged or lodged in there, which is preventing any movement, any dirt, stone, twigs, anything like that. Importantly though, Alec, let me know how you get on. Right, I hope that I've helped solve your problem this week on the GCN Tech Clinic. Now do remember as well to let me know your problems down there in the comments, and I'll do my very best to help answer them. Now remember as well to like and share this video with your friends, and also don't forget to check out the GCN shop at shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com. We've got a whole heap of products. And now for another great video, click just down there.